This map shows the atmospheric state of Victoria in late January 2009. A massive high-pressure system stalled over the Tasman Sea, acting like a pump that channeled hot tropical air directly into the region and drove temperatures upward. For 3 consecutive days, temperatures stayed above 43 degrees Celsius, about 109 degrees Fahrenheit. This sustained heat operated like an oven, baking natural moisture out of the dense eucalyptus forests. Fire requires 3 elements: fuel, oxygen, and heat. The dried eucalyptus provided the fuel, and the hot winds supplied the oxygen. When humidity across the state dropped to just 2%, the third element was locked in. This chart tracks the MacArthur Forest Fire Danger Index. The scale was originally designed to peak at 100 based on previous disasters. On this day, the index spiked past 160 and eventually crossed 200. By the first week of February, the state's geography had been physically primed for disaster. Victoria had become a continent-sized explosive device waiting for a trigger. Emergency officials recognized the data's implications. On February 6th, the Premier of Victoria issued a blunt public warning, stating that the following day would bring the worst fire conditions in state history. The response was massive. Over 19,000 firefighting personnel were deployed, moving engines, aircraft, and crews into position to establish defensive lines around vulnerable communities. But physical preparation has limits. When a landscape is entirely drained of moisture and subjected to extreme winds, direct suppression with water or chemical retardants often fails. Despite the scale of the defense, the safety of the state rested on a razor's edge. Once the landscape reaches maximum combustibility, the entire system is at the mercy of a single stray spark. That spark occurred just before noon at Kilmore East. Winds exceeding 100 kilometers per hour tore down an incorrectly rigged power line, dropping it directly into the dry brush. The electrical arc ignited a surface fire. These flames feed on the loose leaf litter and dead twigs on the forest floor, spreading rapidly across the ground layer. This cross-section shows the fire's progression. Surface flames caught low-hanging branches to create a ladder fire climbing up the trunks. Within minutes, it reached the treetops, becoming a crown fire that travels through the canopy, leaping independently of the ground. Gale-force winds also induced spotting. The updraft snatched burning embers from the canopy and carried them through the air, igniting new fires up to 20 kilometers ahead of the main front. For ground crews, the blaze was an adversary that ignored physical barriers. Firefighters watched the fire leap directly over major highways, rivers, and established fire breaks. Within hours of the first ignition, the fire's forward rate of spread outpaced human technology's ability to track it. By 5 p.m., strong northwesterly winds had carved a long, narrow fire footprint across the King Lake area. Then, the wind direction abruptly changed. A violent southwesterly front arrived, pushing the entire eastern edge of the fire toward the northeast. This shift altered the geometry of the disaster. The massive, elongated flank of the fire, which had been traveling parallel to its path, was suddenly pushed sideways, becoming a massive new forward front. This expanding line caused the Kilmore East and Murrindindi mill fires to merge. The two systems collided, forming a single, massive super-complex of flame. In a megafire, a wind shift takes a narrow column of destruction and turns it sideways. This exponentially multiplied the amount of land and the number of communities caught in the direct path of the fire. The energy output of this merged complex was immense. Calculations estimated the firestorm generated thermal energy equivalent to 1,500 atomic bombs. This heat triggered the stack effect. Like a massive chimney, the fire heated the air above it intensely, rising rapidly and pulling in surrounding oxygen to fuel the combustion. Those updrafts carried moisture and ash into the sky, creating pyrocumulonimbus clouds. These storm systems pushed 15 kilometers into the stratosphere. This footage shows the resulting atmospheric impact. A towering smoke column rose above the canopy, blacking out the sun across the region. Inside this localized storm, thermal currents spawned fire whirls, vortexes of flame with the rotational force of a tornado, capable of tearing up large trees. By 6 p.m., the firestorm achieved full atmospheric autonomy. The concentrated heat detached the local weather from regional patterns, creating a self-sustaining loop of rising air and incoming oxygen. The final toll was staggering. The fires burned 450,000 hectares, destroyed over 3,500 structures, and sent smoke as far as Antarctica. 173 people lost their lives, making February 7, 2009, Australia's deadliest peacetime day. The geography remains marked by the fire's passage. Miles of blackened tree trunks stand in white ash, a permanent record of the inferno's intensity. Black Saturday ended the belief that modern humanity can dominate extreme nature through sheer manpower. When the environment reaches these levels of volatility, force is no longer enough. Global climate shifts are creating volatile cycles across the planet. Heavy wet seasons promote rapid vegetation growth, which is then immediately dried out by severe droughts. This cyclical whiplash transforms the environmental math of Black Saturday into a recurring risk across the planet's driest regions. Adapting to this reality requires a move away from pure suppression. Survival now depends on AI satellite detection, aggressive fuel management, and strict building codes that allow structures to withstand intense heat. As the boundaries between wildlands and cities disappear, we must adapt to an era where the map itself can catch fire.